NIL has ruined the Cinderella stories, Big Ben. We've had one buzzer beater. It was on Sunday when I was eating pizza. It was Maryland against Colorado State. The highest seeds in the Sweet 16, you got a number 6 BYU and a number 10 Arkansas. Those aren't Cinderella stories. Look at this. BYU beat Kansas, Arizona, Iowa State, Baylor. Arkansas started 0-5, lost 6-7 in January. But you know what? They still have 5-chip, blue-chip stars. They've got 2 players projected to get in the draft. NIL ruined the Cinderella story, Big Ben.
Colorado State's a good example. They're not a Power 5 school. They play in the Mountain West. They were very well coached. Like, if you think Hoosiers, they're like modern-day Hoosiers. Back cuts, back screens, open threes. Like, very well coached. Guard play was phenomenal. Now, you put them against another non-Power 5 school in Memphis, they exploited them. Like, Penny Hardaway's a good coach, but just Colorado State is tightened up. You could tell they've been together for a few years. Now, put them against Maryland. God, you can take them to the wire like they did, but Queen is a guy that would never end up anywhere else but a Power 4 school in this case, right? He is a phenomenal player. And you're exactly right. Like, Colorado State is like they put everything together and they eked every ounce of opportunity out of the team. And that's not going to happen anymore. You're exactly right. Like, the transfer portal is, you're seeing teams going down to 4 scholarship players with 3 incoming. Now they have to go to the portal and get 6 in order to just maintain a team.
Yeah.
Whew, you're right. No more Cinderellas. Like,
it's a new type of one and done. Actually, it's a 2-pronged one and done. If you're great in the Power 5, you go to the NBA. If you're in the mid-major, you're one and done. You're not going to the NBA. You're going to the SEC, Big 12, ACC, or Big 10. Lead your team in scoring, all conference, put up stats, take that money and run. So here's what we're going to do, Big Ben. You give me a team in the Sweet 16, I'll give you a player who broke a mid-major's heart and now is playing big-time basketball.
All right. This example I brought up, 3 weeks ago when I texted you about it, I said the Hogs, you're like, Arkansas stinks. And then you made a mention about, they got through the first round. Who cares? This is a prototypical example of how it's going to be going forward. You bring in like 10 players from different areas, from different teams. You try to get them to work together. Some get injured, some meld together. Sometimes you have 6 players that are available because you don't know what's happening. Some are coming off injury, so you get them on the cheap in the portal. But you end up putting together a team, hopefully by the NCAA tournament, that can meld, that can gel, and it's going to take a really good coach. So tell me a player on Arkansas that tipped the scales so that now they're in the Sweet 16 as a 10 seed. I think they're the highest seed remaining.
They are the highest seed. But I'm going one step further. I'm not saying just transfer portal. I'm saying they left from a mid-major into a Power 5 school, a heavyweight. That's why the mid-majors are down.
Oh, yeah, I get you.
Arkansas, I'll give you one. John L. Davis.
Okay.
The guard. Remember Florida Atlantic's run 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Final Four? Mid-major.
You forget him. Like, that's the thing is, like, John L. Davis, I remember him Florida Atlantic. He comes to Arkansas. He's muddled. He's diluted. I don't remember him anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Like, these guys have...
He's like the 3rd best player, maybe 4th best player in Arkansas.
Exactly. They're the guy. They're the guy on Florida Atlantic. They go to Arkansas. They're struggling to get the ball up. Any shots up. Humbling. A lot of kids are going to be humbled. They're going to sacrifice for the ability to go to the tournament.
Yeah.
Do I have that?
You've had success. Well, I mean, let's call a spade, right? Like, when you're in high school and you want to play in college, you want to go to a Power 5 school. You might not get recruited to go to a Power 5 school. You might not have the stats to go to a Power 5 school. So if you get in, you show what you got, you're looking around. You want to play big-time basketball. You also want to get paid. I'm not faulting any of these kids. I'm just saying mid-majors are down because they're losing all these players. Like, I put together this list. Walter Clayton Jr. from Florida, first-team All-American. He was at Iona. Like, JT Toplin, Texas Tech. You'll see him this week and get busy against your Hogs. He was at New Mexico. Like, the guys on Michigan, the 2 7-footers, Golden, and Wolf, FIU, and Yale. Like all the players that we're going to see this weekend, somewhere in the top 3 that are making an impact, they're all mid majors. And that's why we're not seeing the Cinderella stories. We're not seeing the teams get further along that were in the Ohio Valley, in the Mountain West, even in the WCC, right? I think this has impacted the Zags a bit.
It impacts so much. Coaching, too. You see a coach, Drake, the guy from Drake went to the second round. Well, he's all of a sudden at Iowa.
And you know what? Some of his players will probably follow him too.
Yeah, exactly. And no longer, so think of it this way. It's like, who's the, let's call it WAC top, all WAC conference team. Those guys are going to be the top recruits, right? And that's just a matter of fact because they're more developed. They've played the game. If you want to be a Tourney team, you don't have, maybe you can develop a kid or 2, right? If he's a top 50 recruit, but you don't have the time to sit there and bring a team together for a run every 2 to 3 years. Like you got to win every year. And now you have the capability to do that with NIL and, all these kids coming in and everyone's aware of that. Like, I talked about the kid from Florida. He went out and tested the NBA waters. He said, non-first round guarantee. Normally you might push into just say, I don't care. I'm going to go get a non-guaranteed contract or where you're oscillating between the G League and just get some money so I can provide for my family. Well, now he can stick around with the NIL and play another year in NCAA, get some money and compete for a title. And that's what's happening. Like, you're right. I think everyone's right. Everyone's come out and say this. We're not alone in this. Every coach says this. Like, there's no more parity. It's the have and have-nots. The have and have-nots.
I don't think it's ruined college basketball. So I will say it's ruined the Cinderella story, the upsets early on in the tournament. But usually when that happened, there was like the misseeding, right?
Yeah.
And then some blue blood would just smoke a team in the Sweet 16. I don't think we're going to see that this year, right? Because there's a lot of great teams. I think we're going to see better Sweet 16 action. And although Cinderellas are fun, they're only fun the first or second weekend, right? The Blue Bloods are usually going to win it and get a majority of the teams to the Final Four. We just got there this year quicker without any Cinderellas. Let's get this podcast going. Hello and welcome to Big Ben and K Win live on YouTube. Drop your comments below if you're watching this live or on demand. More of an audio podcast person, download, listen, subscribe, and 5-star us anywhere you get your audio podcast. I'm K Win. He's Big Ben. Today, it's all NCAA. We just talked about the Cinderella stories. We're going to do a little redraft for Final Four. We'll talk some headlines, and we'll get you out of here. Where do you want to start?
It was one of those weekends where you sit there and go, okay, that game's out of hand. Oh, man, I got to wait till the next window to even see a good game. And then you got Arizona, Oregon, which was a great game down the stretch. Yeah. You had a few games that both fans were in it. You had teams that had been there, never been there before, or only a few times. What grade would you give the tourney? Like, were you satisfied?
I mean, A+.
Always, no matter what.
Basketball all day long, right? Action everywhere. It's always an A. There's always a storyline. There's always a headline. There may not be a Cinderella story, but you've got Coach Calipari, right? Like, everyone pushed him out of Kentucky. He can't coach. He can't recruit. And oh, by the way, he gets his team to the Sweet 16 and he beats Rick Pitino and St. John's, right? You've got Purdue. Like, oh, they don't have the big guy anymore. They don't have Zach Edey. They can't win. They're in the Sweet 16, one game away from the Elite 8. You've got Duke, best player in the country. So the storylines are always there. It's always an A+ for me.
I would agree. Even though, and like you said, there's always the teams that you're like, you're filling out your bracket. You're like, there's no way that team gets there, right? You don't feel great. But then this year it's been like, they got there. Yeah. To your point, they somehow got there. Pitino, I will give him this. He showed up at his son's game, having already been out of the tournament, having already been humbled by Mr. Calipari. He could have mailed it in and gone to Barbados or Cabo or wherever, but no, he showed up at his son's game. Sun also lost too, so maybe there was something to that. But I think the storylines are still there. The just the fun. Everyone's looking at their bracket this year because it is pretty chalky. Like everyone's kind of in it now, right? When there's so many upsets, people don't predict those. Some people fall off. Their winner. Some people might have had St. John's, but for the most part, everyone's still in the bracket. Everyone's still engaged. Everyone's going in the second weekend. Still updating their the status of their bracket and so forth. It's still a good draw. Still a great draw. Still probably the best. So I heard someone say, you got the NCAA tournament, 2 weekends, right? Where there's just packed, chock full of games before you get to the Final Four. And then you have the Masters. So like for 3 weekends in a row, you just got sports. It's euphoric almost. Like
You have Major League Baseball opening day in 2 days.
Yes. Oh man. We're in it. We're in it.
We're in it.
Ride the wave.
The storyline I'm watching, a couple. So you got John Shire, 37. I've been the first to not be as high on him for the X's and O's. But he does, I think, have probably the best team left in the country, the best player in the country. 5 guys, all play D, all can switch. They're dominant. Coach K won his first title at 38 in 1991. John Shire gets it this year. Next year, he's got the Boozer twins, Carlos Boozer's kids, Cameron Boozer's probably the top player in the country. We could see a new legacy being born at Duke and a new run, which seemed unthinkable a couple years ago once he started. Like, he seems more calm. He seems more poised. His team is playing much better. I think he's finally settling into taking over for arguably one of the greatest college basketball coaches of all time.
You're not going to blot out Coach K overnight, right? No, it's just a matter of fact. The guy, not only was he great at Duke, but he coached USA basketball for a long time, or at least participated. And you're right. And then just the legacy of players that went through that program with Coach K. But for John Shire I don't know if you watch any of his post-game interviews. I mean, he's monotone. He's not up. He's not down. He's directive. He knows what he's doing at this point. And it's easy when you got the best player in NCAA basketball playing for you. I mean, would they win by like 20 and 15, maybe beyond that?
And it wasn't even as close as the box score said. And lost in all of this is Tyrese Proctor, the sharpshooter. Like, I think he had 7 threes. If he's shooting the lights out, you've got Cooper Flagg, you got Con Knipple, and you've got Sion James, who's like a linebacker. Like, there's just so many weapons. It was almost a blessing in disguise for Cooper Flagg to get hurt and miss some of those games in the ACC tournament, because when he's off the court, they can still play and they can score. Like, that's what hurt the Warriors so much, is they didn't have the other guys around them to score when Curry's on the bench. They have Butler now, obviously. But Duke is looking good.
I'm going to give you this. Whoever wins this year's title is going to benefit long term. And here's why I say that. Okay. If you're a player, right, you want to come, you're transferring with not only the opportunity to win, but to win a title. And so if you win a title, I think that buys a year for you of development, meaning you can go recruit a guy and say, hey, you won't hit the floor right away, but come back up and you'll have a good opportunity to win a championship. I mean, we've already seen that we won a championship last year. So for whomever, if it's Duke, if it's Auburn, you're going to get probably the opportunity to tell some of these big time MAC or big time WAC or big time whatever, SWAC, whatever little league you want to talk about. You can recruit them. Then you're not going to be the guy, but you're going to have an opportunity to win a championship. And so I think if Duke wins it or whomever wins it, and Duke would be a good program to implement this, but I think you're going to see probably more back-to-back championships coming up in the next 2 decades, 20 years.
I like that bold prediction.
Yeah, that's my bold prediction, is like the program that wins out this year, it's going to more players are going to be attracted to that, right? You're going to get a copious amount of 2-year transfers, right? Or with 2 years remaining of eligibility, and you'll have an opportunity to develop those kids. And the reason I say that, Shire and Duke are probably the best program fit to kind of carry that narrative. Like,
They're the
hey,
New
come to
York
Duke.
Yankees of college basketball.
Sure.
And everyone wants to play for a winner. So if you win, more people want to get on board. Like,
Exactly.
love them or hate the Yankees, like the free agents still go there. Players will be, I'll release my no trade clause to go to the Yankees. Like, I think you could see Duke start to take off and head in that direction of dominance.
Yeah. And it's you're selling the resume, right? You're selling the school to these kids, and the results are you're in the tournament, you're going to the Sweet 16 or beyond. If you're not doing that, it's a harder sell, right? If you're lower end Colorado, say in the Big 12, you're still not getting these recruits because the recruits want to go play for someone that's a coach that's established. You've been there, you know how to get there, and an opportunity to play 3 or 4 games because these kids are getting more money at the end of the day the further they go in the NCAA tournament. Right. The
Yeah.
more they believe they can, the further they go, the more exposure they get, the more money they get, you name it.
Yeah. And I think you kind of highlighted it earlier, but just to double down on it, like coaching matters so much more now
Mm-hmm.
because you not only have to recruit the high school players, you've got to kind of watch Division II, the mid majors, and you got to bring all these different personalities into your program. Whereas 5, 6 years ago, you probably only had like 2 or 3 new players coming in. Now you could have like 6, 7, 8 players coming in, some who've already experienced success at the college level, and you have to get them to buy into your program. You have to manage their NIL money. You have to manage their egos and get
Yep.
them all playing unselfish basketball to cut down the nets in April.
It's gone are the days, Bill Walton used to talk about it, recruit, players, right? And just the best players. I didn't recruit positions necessarily, but I recruited the best players, fits for our program. Gone are those days. Like,
Yeah.
you're going to have to go, well, in some regard, you're going to have to go get the best players available, right? But you're going to have to sell them on the program. And to your point, you can't sell them on, hey, you're going to get up 20 shots. You're the right? Because you don't know that. You don't know how it's going to come together. What you're going to sell them on is you're going to be in the second weekend of the NCAA tournament no matter what, right?
Yeah.
If you come, right? And then it is, imagine having, God, what is it, blue chips. You got someone from, different. You're not recruiting locally anymore. You're recruiting like I said, the all conference players from all the lesser leagues, and
Yeah.
hoping they can come together and gel and meld.
Someone said this. I didn't believe it, but I looked into it and it's true. So Kentucky, all of their players this year, none of them actually scored a bucket at Kentucky last year.
Mm-hmm.
So like all new players. So it's a testament for what Mark Pope is doing.
Yes.
Because back in the day, you had your system, you had your identity, 2 or 3 players would move around, but you had your core of what you want to do. Now you almost have to say like, who are my players? Okay, this is my scheme.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, who are my players? Oh, I got to shift my offense. I got to change my defense. Like coaching actually matters this year because you can't have the same philosophy and find the 1 or 2 players to plug in. You have to say like, you know what? We're just going to throw it into the big guy. And that's our offense this year.
Yeah, you can't
We
say
just have to press and run. That's all we're going to have to do because we have no big guys left.
Yes. Hell or high water, we're going to run the triangle offense. No, that's not going to work, right? Because you
Yeah.
might have the pieces that don't fit that. And that's why you see coaches going from mid-majors so quickly to, Power 4, Power 5 schools. It's like, okay, that guy's figured it out. I need him to bring that same culture, right? Culture is going to be important. Well, what are you going to do? We're not going to sell them specifically on getting. We're going to sell them the culture, development, some ways, but guarantee that we're going to get in the second weekend of the NCAA. That's going to be the biggest part. Are we going to win at the end of the day? We're going to figure it out. It's almost like these. You just got to get in. Like Arkansas is a great example. You got to figure it out by the tournament, and they have. I mean, they played with injuries. They played with guys that haven't been eligible. They played with 8 scholarship players available. That's going to become normal. That's going to become normal going forward. God, I can't wait to watch the portal. God, the high school recruiting is going to be so diminished. Like Gonzaga already had 6 players leave, and everyone's up in arms. But they're like, "Oh, we got 4 players coming in, and a lone high school recruit in the top 50. That's not going to figure into our program probably for 3 years."
Yeah. I mean, you used to think like, oh, I didn't get a great high school signing class, probably not going to be a good year. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter. Just go to the portal.
does not matter.
Doesn't matter. So should we
Okay.
do a little redraft for Final
Yes.
Four?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So originally, I had Florida beating Wisconsin, but Wisconsin is no longer in it. I
Done.
do believe I'm not alone because you had Clemson going far. So we both missed out
Yeah.
on those picks. That's why the redraft is so great.
Okay.
So I'm still staying Florida in the West. I'm going Michigan. They are
Ooh,
going to upset Auburn. That's right. They've
you
got the
like the
two
two big gets,
7-footers. They
huh?
got Trey Donaldson. They got Dusty May. Auburn is going down.
Mm.
In the East, I'm going Bama. I know I should pick Duke. Everyone loves Duke, but it is March Madness, and sometimes crazy things happen. So I'm going Bama. I'm going Houston in the Midwest. I should have picked them early on. You always go with your gut. But I only watched
Yeah.
one game of Houston this year, and they played Arizona, and they didn't look good, and they had no offense. And I'm like, they have defense, but they can't score. I see them in the tournament, and they're shooting like gangbusters. That is my Final Four. I'm going Florida, Bama, all SEC. I'm buying into the hype machine, and I'm going Gators to win it all. I'm not
Okay.
moving off from my Gators.
The Gators survived a scare, which you like to see. Like, okay, can they, when they get down the stretch, are they able to, and UConn took them, like, that was a phenomenal game, like, back and forth. I'm going to differ from you a little bit. I like Michigan State. I like Richardson's son, Jace. Tom Izzo is, I can't, if Auburn plays Michigan State, when they crouch down and they're, old Tarkanian biting his towel or whatever, I could see Izzo and Bruce Pearl just eyeballs popping out of their skull. Love to see that. I'm going to go Michigan State to beat Auburn. And then I like Maryland, but they can't get by Florida. Florida's going to play Arkansas. SEC battle. Florida will get through. I like Houston. You came out and said it like probably a month back that Houston has the oldest roster in all the NCAA, and that counts, my friend. That counts. Calvin Sampson's a great coach. I always look at coaches now. You got to look at coaches. That's going to be a factor. Houston, and then you like Duke, or excuse me, you like Bama. I think BYU is going to beat Bama.
Wow.
BYU
They
can
could.
shoot it. Hey, and BYU has the top ranked recruit in the entire nation, I think, going there next year. Like
Yeah.
BYU's momentum is great. I think BYU gets by Bama, and then Duke has not a layup against BYU. It's going to be tough, but I think John Shire will Proctor and Cooper Flag are a little tougher than say the Bama. So let's go Duke, Florida, Michigan State, and Houston. And let's
Okay.
go Houston versus Michigan State, and Houston takes it.
H-Town, baby.
Who's the lefty?
Do you think Calvin Sampson takes the Natty Trophy back to Pullman to show his respect for the Cougs?
if he wins it, WSU might retire his jersey as kind of like a claim, like kind of in the way that we would retire Gardner Minshew's jersey.
Yeah.
Who cares if they just were here for a year or two? We'll put them up in lights. Calvin Sampson's been around a long time.
Yeah.
The guy takes care of himself because he looks great. He's
Great.
still around, still recruiting. And Houston's been to 6 straight Sweet 16s,
Mm-hmm.
the longest streak there is in the NCAA. So that program, if Houston wins it, just new to the Big 12, right?
Yeah.
If Houston wins it, that's dangerous because Texas is a fertile. There's a lot of schools that you can go recruit in and around to bring into I don't know if they're the program much like Duke, but 6 straight Sweet 16s is a selling point, right? You're
Yeah.
guaranteed the second weekend. That's what you want.
You know what I love about Houston is every year for the last 4 or 5 years when Kelvin Sampson's been coaching is they're always like a top 5, top 7 school. And I haven't heard of any of their players, and I don't know any of their players. But they're all tough. They all play defense. And then once you watch a couple games, you're like, oh, yeah, that guy's going pro. That guy's
Yeah.
going pro. Like, I don't know. He's got a system. He's got a mold. He's got a plan. And I think it might actually pay off if they can get by. They play Duke.
Yes, they'll play
Yeah,
Duke
they
in the Final
definitely do.
Four. So, coaches are going to matter. Just as much
Yeah.
as players, right? Because you're no longer is it like you're not. It's not the program in its entirety. It's like the coach and the culture and what you're going to do moving forward. I
You know
think
what's crazy about all this is remember 2 years ago, Coach Prime, Dion, like, oh, how is he going to win? All these players coming in his program, college sports are ruined. And then we're seeing it now in college basketball in real time.
I mean, Josh Pastner, if you guys remember that guy, he was in and around. He got to go get a name. Like mid majors might work it. You know, you might be able to go like Iowa. Might go hire a guy Drake, right? Then his selling program is, hey, I took Drake to the tourney. What can I do with Iowa, right? Money,
Yeah.
NIL. But even for lesser schools like UNLV, who just hired Josh Pastner, you need a splash. You need a name, kind of like Memphis with Penny Hardaway. You need someone that's going to attract kids to even consider your program.
Yeah.
And unless you're winning, unless you're guys like Kelvin Sampson, that's going to be hard. Pope's done a great job this year. I'll give him that.
Great job. Texas just signed Sean Miller
Yep.
and
Sweaty Sean Miller.
sweaty Sean Miller. And he's still innocent from his U of A days, but you have to believe that that experience in Arizona where he's supposedly paying players, he knows how to negotiate NIL deals. It got him this opportunity. Texas has so much money, right?
Oh,
And
that's
now he doesn't
good.
have to do it like all off book, all from a burner phone. Like he can do it like in real time. He's a great coach. He just had to navigate in that gray area of college basketball. He doesn't have to do that anymore. I think it's a great hire for Texas because he can coach.
No more manila envelopes, direct deposits these
No.
days, right?
Yeah.
It's
Just
amazing.
slide into their DMs with like a Venmo account number.
This weekend's going to be wonderful. Following weekend, you're going to have the Final Four and the Master Tournament. I believe I might be wrong on that. It might go
Masters is the Final Four is the fifth or sixth. I think Masters is the
Masters of the
following
following
weekend.
weekend. Yeah. So I mean, this next 3 weeks are just going to be impeccable in the way of. Here's what you need to do: clean up the house, tidy it up, do whatever you can to where you get at least 3 to 4 hours in butt on couch for the weekend because you're going to want to watch these games live. NCAA
Yeah,
tournament second, you can't DVR much.
no.
You're already getting texts about it. What's going on?
If you have a significant other, gift her or
Yeah,
him a spa day. If you
exactly.
have kids, take them to see Grammy.
There's a rise in drop offs at the grandparents. Yeah. Um. Okay, I got Houston. You got Florida.
Gators.
Gosh, the Gators are good. I
Gators are
think they're
good.
going to benefit from getting through that close game.
Yeah. Everyone kind of wrote off UConn because they weren't as good as they've been, but they still played hard and they were in that game. They took Florida down to the wire. If UConn could have hit a couple shots here or there, well, same thing with St. John's. It'd be a different story. But it just comes down to defense, toughness, and not giving up, right? Because it doesn't always look pretty, but you need that leadership to help pull your team through.
For the sake of basketball, so UConn's, we can end on this, and this might be kind of how it goes in terms of what are we going to call that? What's the term where everyone comes together, or so UConn isn't yet
Camaraderie.
what? No, everyone. So UConn's not even in a Big Five or Power Four or Power Five conference yet, right? So I think really near term, you're going to see them opt into some conference, whether that's ACC, Big 12, or I don't know, they're in talks of the new Pac 12 and so forth. Because I think what happens this year blots out. You're not out of the first weekend anymore, even though you won back to backs. Like it blots out a lot of that. Like it's going to be, and are you not in a Power Five school? You better have a lot of NIL. I think the Zags are going to suffer a little bit in that same regard. So winning is only going to go so far. It's going to be how much can you pay me, and what'd you do last year? What'd you do last year?
Yeah, that's true.
You're only as good as your last run.
Yeah. I'm headed to the Final Four.
No,
I got new merch. Let me know what you think of it.
I
It's a
looked
new
at the merch
T-shirt.
this year, and the merch was garbage this year. It's,
I'm coming out with new merch.
you for the Final Four?
Yeah.
What is it?
Cinderella's redshirting. She's taking a year off.
Oh,
She'll be
that's
back
good.
though. She always comes back.
That's good. And what are you going to do? Her kind of like, curled up, head down, maybe with like one of those X's and O's boards next to her. That's good.
She'll be sitting on the bench.
You can use AI to come up with an image for you.
Yeah.
Boom. You know what we need to talk about next time? We need to expose this. I forget. I think it was Texas A&M first round. Some guy missed a few shots,
Mm-hmm.
and they ended up, I think, losing. There are people going in and chastising athletes about their performance based relative to their gambling outputs and the amount it cost them.
Oh wow!
Yeah, we gotta expose that. We gotta expose
Are we
that.
exposing the gamblers?
We're exposing the gamblers. Yes.
I just wanted to make sure we're on the same page.
Gosh, your $15 parlay bet isn't worth threatening some kid with some retribution just due to the fact that he missed a free throw. Like, let's go. We could grow up a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
I don't
What
know.
if we came to their work and we were gambling on their performance? Hey, wake up, sleepy.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You know what they should have to do? On the other side, let's call it about the other side. If they win you money, you should have to send them the thank you card.
Exactly.
Your
Or give them a
direct one.
cut.
Sure. Yes. Absolutely.
You know how you tip out the dealer in blackjack
Yes.
once you leave?
Tip out the player. You're right. Did a play have some sort of algorithm? Did the player who contributed most to the win? You need to give that guy a cut.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, some might say that's a form of point shaving.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, we can find something that works. If you're going to disparage them for not helping you win, you got to give them credit and gratitude when you do win.
I agree.
Handwritten note required before making this bet. You agree to a handwritten note.
Yeah. Just wait till they graduate and leave, and then give them their tip.
Right. There you go. They can accumulate money. That's a great idea.
Love it.
God, betting's so big. Gambling is massive.
Huge.
Billions. Probably just on this tournament. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, let's get out of here. I got to go play some bets for this weekend.
Boom.
Boom. Go Gators.
Who's your bookie?
His name's Wheezy. He lives in the Pacific Northwest.
Go Gators. I'm with you. We're a Gator household. Let's go.
All right.
All right. Peace.
Later.